we live in an explosive, litigious climate would be an understatement. The volume of employment-related practice liability claims continues to increase, and unfortunately, the trend is likely to be a long-term problem. Employees of all sizes, even if they only have one, are exposed to legal actions filed by a current or former employee that allege discrimination, harassment, wrongful termination, or other charges. The BOP or package policy that you wrote for your client does contain general liability. Now, there is an exclusion, though, on the general liability for any kind of employment practice type loss. This means that you want to buy that coverage back for your client by either endorsing their policy, or for your larger clients, just write them a standalone policy. The coverage is going to afford them coverage for 3 major injuries that they could have: wrongful termination, discrimination, whether religious or gender, sexual harassment, and the coverage is written on a claims-made basis. Now, be sure to carefully read those definitions that are supplied by the carrier, because they can vary drastically between carriers. Now, the other coverage that's included in that is defense. Now, the one thing I will caution you about is that those limits are inside the policy limit, which means that you can exhaust the defense limit before you're ever finished the claim. Here's an example. Your client carries $1 million in employment practice coverage. 5 ladies who feel that they were passed over for a promotion in favor of a male employee filed claims for $250,000 in damages each. The courts decide that there was indeed a gender discrimination offense and award each $150,000. The legal expense amounted to $700,000. The policy will cover $750,000 in damages, but only $250,000 in legal expenses. This means that your client would need to pay the remaining defense costs of $500,000 out of pocket. Keep in mind that the duty to defend will also end when that limit is exhausted. So if your client has a second EPLI claim this year, there'll be no defense costs at all. Now, the standard EPLI policy gives coverage for lawsuits brought against your client for former employees or current employees. But third-party coverage is going to give your client coverage for a wrongful act that's alleged by the public against your client. Here's an example. Your client owns a restaurant that you have written on a BOP. A patron sues them for discrimination or harassment. Or your client owns a beauty salon that you've written on a BOP, and the UPS guy sues them for discrimination or harassment. In just a moment, your client's reputation and hard work can be shattered due to an accusation, whether true or not. It's important to educate your clients to prepare them for the unseen. Travelers offers EPLI coverage for several classes of business up to a limit of $250,000 with a $5,000 deductible to their BOP policy. Now, their coverage also includes punitive, prior acts coverage, and even third-party coverage in there. They'll even throw in some identity fraud as a good measure. Join me next month to see what commonly overlooked coverage I'm dishing out for your agency.